Look beyond the buzzwords and reflect on your role as a CX, CS practitioner, because we're going to deconstruct CX and CS. Thank you, Sarah. Round of applause. Oh, here you go.
Do you have the clicker thing?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Sarah Caminiti. So raise your hand if you've ever been handed an NPS score and been told to fix it. Yeah, me too. And yet here we all are, still pretending that, oh gosh, I'm stepping over a light, that it measures loyalty. I am no longer at Abcam. I am now the manager of customer support for Tailscale, which is a Canadian company. I have been building and scaling and fixing support teams, customer experience teams, customer success teams for about 15 years. I'm also the host of the podcast, The Career Strategist. It was formerly called Epical Growth. It's the reason why I get to hang with you guys today. I am so pumped to be in Toronto. I've never been here before. I am from Maine, which is like a distant cousin of Canada, I guess. We both love maple syrup. So this has been a lot of fun. We're going to be taking a flamethrower to the jargon that is holding CX back. I have made a career out of translating buzzwords into real solutions and bridging the gap between ambitious ideas and practical results with as little bullshit as humanly possible. So, in order for us to start tearing things apart, we have to understand the foundation from which we came. The term customer service first appeared in the 1940s, right around the same time that women were being pushed out of the factory jobs post-World War II and told to return to roles that were more appropriate for their station. And you know what those roles were? They were secretaries, they were receptionists, operators, shop girl, hostess, help. Customer service wasn't born from strategy, it was born from servitude. It was a job given to women and minorities, not because of their potential, but because society saw them as less intelligent, less capable, but somehow perfectly suited to soothe, serve, and stay silent. They would hand them these jobs that they were expected to be grateful for, not as a path to power, but as a way to contain it. They were expected to absorb anger, deflect tension, smooth discomfort. Does some of this start to ring a bell? To make others look good and to stay quiet in the process. But here's what they got wrong. Those roles demanded more emotional intelligence, fast judgment, systems thinking, adaptability, and relentless ability to get things done with half of the information and none of the authority. Customer experience did not evolve because the work got harder. It evolved because the truth finally started to surface. That you can't build a successful business without the people who translate pain into progress. That trust is not a byproduct, it is a strategic advantage. And yet, 70% of frontline roles are still held by women, and only 5% of CX leaders that are women make it to a VP level. I am part of that 5%, and I was not actually a VP. It was just a name only. I was not given the same sort of authority as my peers, so I think that it's fair to assume that that 5% is actually a lot smaller when it comes to influence. The language has changed, the metrics have changed, but the power dynamics still look way too familiar. So that's why we're not here to fix the frameworks. We're here to name the foundation so that we can rebuild on truth, because the data proves it. Companies that prioritize CX grow revenue 1.7 times faster than those that don't. Customer-centric organizations are 60% more profitable. This work has always been strategic. The only thing that's been missing is the credit. So what do you do when a system was never designed to see you? Well, you stop playing by its rules. You stop accepting the frameworks that erase the people that are doing the work. You stop mistaking buzzwords for strategy, because CX didn't start with a whiteboard. It started with people like you who were told to stay quiet, who instead were keeping the business alive. So if we want to move forward, we need to call out the language that's been keeping us stuck. Not the fluffy stuff, not the LinkedIn branded trendy stuff, not the all hands approved versions. I'm talking about the terms that run our meetings but never make space for the people that are actually doing the work. It's time for some truth. So let's play a game I like to call Lie, Truth, Fix. Never heard of it? Cool, I made it up. So we're going to start with rapid fire because a lot of these terms are not worth our time. They're language that are used to protect the status quo and prevent real change. So let's go. 360 view. The lie, if we had one tool, we would finally be aligned. But the truth, you do not have a tool problem, you have a culture problem. One tool will not rule them all. One tool will just prevent multiple teams from building the tech stack that they need to do their job well. So the fix, stop buying in to these all-in-one Band-Aid, snake oil, mumbo-jumbos. Build your own tech stack, own your tech stack, change your tools when they don't serve you. We have to stop thinking that moving to a new help desk is a once-in-a-generation thing, which you have no idea how many times I've heard that, and it still makes absolutely no sense to me. We have to build the processes that enforce the collaboration because the teams are supported by the tools to do their job well, so they actually have the bandwidth and the brain space to think outside of their silos and actually collaborate. There's so many incredible companies that are focused on very niche problems, and they are looking for people like you to tell them what they need to build so you can build a partnership. Those are the ways that we're going to be driving things forward. Journey mapping. This one was a hard one for me to put on the rapid fire because I do love the idea of journey mapping. When I first heard about it, I got so excited I ended up pulling the person in to an episode of the podcast just so I can ask them more questions about journey mapping. Because the lie is that this map will enforce collaboration because the entire journey is defined. Every single spot has different points of contact, ownership, the whole shebang. But the truth is, you mapped it out once in a Miro board, or worse, you spent an insane amount of money bringing in a consultant to build it for you 5 years ago, and no one knows that it exists. It's been really cool to see how many conversations are happening today about journey mapping, but we have to make sure that we are building living maps that changes the company's grow. Attach KPIs company-wide to these journeys with teams outside of CX and CS so that everybody is aligned and everybody takes ownership about their part in the customer journey. Personas, the lie. We know who our customer is. The truth, most of these personas look nothing like your customers. Fiona Finance is going to look different depending on the company. Using a persona that was built when you hired that consultant to build the journey maps is not an excuse to not have CX in the room. I've heard it so many times. Oh my gosh, what? I should be talking to the people that are talking to the customers about all of these products. I have this persona though. This persona is awesome. This is what I've been using for years. What? I didn't even know this persona existed. So you know what you want these customers to be, but yet they're still using them to ignore who's actually asking for help and who's actually talking to the customer about the help that they need. So the fix is that if you really think that you need them, you have to use them in addition to the data that CX and CS can provide. They still have to be a part of the conversation from day one. Next, the customer is always right. This one's an easy one because we are reading the lie right there. The customer is not always right. Usually this is thrown out there when CX and CS teams are unable to enforce company policies. It means that your team has no process, no documentation, no backup. They are forced into a corner and they don't have a leg to stand on, so they just have to take the abuse and put their tail between their legs and say, you are right, because I cannot prove that you are wrong. So, what's the fix? Well, the customer is always listened to. That's why we are here. We can listen to you, we can ask questions, thoughtful questions. But then we have to build the guardrails to back that up, because you have to support your people. Because if you don't support your people, the customer is going to feel it in the long run. Some of these terms are just buzzwords, but others are systems in disguise. And that's why these next ones, they don't really belong in the game. Customer obsession. I'm going to try to make it through this one without dry heaving or laughing because I have a lot of thoughts on the term customer obsession. Because the lie is that we're obsessed with our customers. It's printed on our website. I'm going to repeat it. Every single all hands, the CEO always mentions how obsessed they are. It's the tagline in the pitch deck. But that's bullshit. It's not real. Why is it not real? Because most companies are obsessed with saying that they care, but they make the deliberate choice to ignore the people that are doing the work. CX is not invited to the roadmap meetings. Feedback is collected, but it's never acted on. Personas are used to silence real conversations. None of this screams obsession. They're just curating a narrative. And when your team surfaces the truth, they're told that this is anecdotal, or this isn't real data, or we don't want to confuse the roadmap that we built without you. That's not obsession, that's gaslighting. So what's the fix? Well, we have to start making customer obsession provable. Make CX data a part of every launch, not just the postmortem. Celebrate retention wins like revenue wins. And if you're using the term customer obsessed, you have to be ready to show the budget, the headcount, and the visibility to the teams that are supporting the customers to back it up. Because if you're not investing in the people that are closest to the customers, you are not customer obsessed. You're just blowing smoke up somebody's behind. Next one, buy-in. I think a lot about buy-in because we've been told that you just need to get buy-in all the time. It's said like a challenge, but it's the only thing that's standing between your team and strategic influence. They just need to build a better deck. They need to have a more persuasive Slack thread. They have to know about all of those private Slack channels that all of the conversations are happening in that they're not invited to. True story. One more pitch, one more meeting, one more ask. That's when you'll get the buy-in, and that's when we'll loop you in. But the truth is that buy-in has become a one-way street. Not a surprise. Customer success is expected to calm renewals when product doesn't deliver, answer the questions that marketing overpromised, fight churn that sales should never have signed in the first place. CX is expected to surface the insights, track sentiment, fix what nobody else is being held accountable for, and still pitch their value every single time like they are trying to prove the fact that they should exist. Meanwhile, leadership just tells you, make the case better. But if you're still having to convince people that customer data is strategic, that feedback should influence product direction, that retention is a revenue engine, then this is not about alignment. This is about power, and this is about a lack of respect. They don't want buy-in. They want compliance until it's too late. So what's the fix? We have to stop chasing collaboration that doesn't collaborate back. We have to start building proof and sharing it loudly in public. Run CX and CS pilots without waiting for permission. Pair up, build a retention touch point, run a feature follow-up campaign, track results, and package them like they are a case study for internal visibility. You have to create a cross-functional win wall. Document the revenue. Document the retention or the product improvements that came from CX and CS insights. Put names on it. Make your impact visible. We have been so quiet for so long, and it's usually because we have so much going on because they keep giving us more hats to wear. But we have to make things visible, even if no one asks for it. Share traction, not pitches. Stop making the same asks to leadership. Start showing them what they're missing by not investing in you. And find the product manager, the account executive, the engineer who listens and builds with them. Momentum is not about buy-in from everyone. It's about delivering results with someone. And if there is nobody in your organization that you can build these relationships with, run. Do not walk. Well, maybe do like a light jog because the job market is trash right now. But you're not going to build anything with anyone in that place. Because when we have to do the work and we have to justify it, there's no bridges that are being built. You're dragging the weight of the entire company uphill. This isn't a warm and fuzzy This is an agreement. Buy-in is a mutual agreement. And if only one side is honoring it, that's not buy-in, that's exploitation. NPS. Let's end all of these fun buzzwords that I'm trashing on with a sacred cow. Net Promoter Score. The lie is that it measures loyalty. The truth is that it's a shallow proxy. The Net Promoter Score asks one question: how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a colleague? How many of you have friends or family members that actually know what you do for a living? Yeah, that's what I expected. Nobody I know knows what I do for a living. But yet we're still asked if we're going to recommend these tools to them all the time. And I mean, that's just one of the reasons why that question is complete garbage. It's hypothetical. You're asking them to imagine a scenario that's never going to happen with someone who may never need your product. It's also emotionally skewed. Response rates spike after extreme experiences. That's not news. So you're mostly capturing rage or extreme delight, not sustainable sentiment. It lacks behavioral proof because 82% of companies use NPS as their primary customer metric, but only 1 in 4 actually ties it to renewals or retention data. It gets gamed constantly. Reps are coached to beg for 9s and 10s. Customers skip the comments. And when they do take the time to actually leave a comment, it has 0 impact on the score, which makes no sense. They care enough to tell you why they did what they did, but then nothing happens. There's more. It's culturally biased. Different demographics score differently. Some communities are statistically less likely to give a 10, even when they're satisfied, and that will then reflect poorly on you. And it's a lagging indicator. By the time your NPS drops, the relationship is already broken. You are reacting to fallout. You are not preventing it. So what do? You have to start tracking behavior, not intention. If NPS asks, would you need to start asking, did they? And this is how you have to measure real loyalty. Unprompted advocacy. How to track that? Social listening tools, things like Brandwatch or Sprout. Capture those mentions on Reddit, LinkedIn, Twitter, Discord. Look for customer posts that are defending your product, not just tagging it. When you are having an outage, who is sticking up for you in those Reddit threads and reminding everybody of the awesome stuff that you're doing? You are just having one bad moment. Those are your promoters, not somebody that just got sick of seeing that pop up on their screen. Organic referrals. Build UTM code referral links into onboarding and community posts. Track signups or conversions tied to customers who weren't part of a referral campaign. Renewals without negotiation. Segment by renewal type. Who's re-signing without escalations, discounts, or delays? Who's just excited to keep moving with us? Early adopter behavior. Who signs up for betas? Who fills out product feedback surveys without being nudged? Who's begging for product feedback surveys? Resilience during failure. Tag those support conversations from outages or escalations. Who reached out constructively and then stayed? These are the customers who believe in what you are building, not just what you promised. Start building behavior-based loyalty scores that reward action over assumption. Frequency of public advocacy, quality of referrals, willingness to test, constructive feedback during outages, renewal patterns. Then tell that story. Make marketing strategies around it. Build dashboards around it. Share the real wins with the community. Make sure that leadership knows exactly who is keeping the business alive and why. You've heard now what we need to stop saying. But this isn't about rebranding old terms. This is about naming what's already true. Translator. You've probably been told if you want to be taken seriously by product, bring the data. If you want to be heard by finance, make the case in dollars. If you want buy-in, tell the story from their perspective. So you do. You shift your language. You shift your tone, you shift your framing, depending on who's in the room. You run the same insight through 5 filters until it finally lands. You take feedback and you try again and again and again, or you pay attention to the silence and adjust, because sometimes they just, for some reason, do not want to tell you why they are still ignoring you, even when you're trying a million different things. But nobody teaches you how to do this. No one helps you do this, and no other team is asked to do this for anybody else. You've had to build the bridge and carry the message. You've been the translator because leadership refused to listen in your native tongue. You make the complexity land. You adapt so the truth can travel. You shift your team so that they cannot be ignored. That's not soft. That's not a soft skill. That is adaptive strategy under pressure. That's operational fluency across silos. That's power they didn't even know that they were relying on. That's you. That's everybody that's in this room. And here's the part that we skip. Most of us learn this the hard way, alone, fighting for credibility with no map. So here's your to-do. Start building what you've learned into something that others can use. Don't let the next generation of CX and CS professionals burn out by trying to prove what you have already proven. Make it easier for them to succeed, faster. We don't have to be on this journey alone. We're all in this room together. Next, operational empathy. This has nothing to do with being nice. This is about knowing the customer is about to hit a wall before the data shows it. It's about understanding the root cause of frustration, not just logging the ticket. It's having the tools to help you and your team do this. It's about hearing what is not said in a reply, noticing what isn't working, even when when no one is complaining yet, and knowing that unresolved friction becomes churn fast. Most teams wait until there's a fire, but you see the smoke, and then you're expected to fix it without authority, without ownership or tools. That's not emotional labor. That's strategic pattern recognition. And you've been doing this quietly, constantly, and without a playbook. This entire industry has emerged because of the people in this room over the last 10 years. It's still being built. It's still having weird names attached to it. This is all because of you. When this is done right, operational empathy isn't just support. It's infrastructure. You are architects. It's how we build experiences that customers want to stay in. It's how trust becomes repeatable. So your to-do on this one, document what you've seen before. We all know how big of a deal documentation is. We have to document it. But really pay attention to what you are doing, not just your teams. Create those internal patterns, those playbooks, those escalation flags, not just so that you can survive and breathe for a moment before you're thrown into the next fire, but so that the team behind you can lead with the clarity that you had to earn the hard way. Next, retention. We talk about retention like it's a lagging metric, something that just happens or it doesn't. But when you're the one doing the work, you know that retention does not just reflect loyalty, it reflects leadership. Retention tells you whether your systems work, whether your promise matches the product, whether your customers trust you enough to stay even if it's cheaper to go elsewhere, whether your teams are staffed effectively, because if your teams are stretched too thin, if they're burning out, if they don't have the support or the tools that they need to be successful, the customer is always going to feel it. And still, it's still treated like an outcome. And CX and CS is a reaction. But retention is built in the interactions that nobody is tracking, in the follow-ups that nobody sees. It's in the patterns only your team names, in the risks that only your team absorbs. Retention is not a support goal, it is a business strategy, and it's your most honest mirror. So what do you need to do? You gotta be loud. You gotta start tracking what you catch early, save quietly, and escalate with no credit. Create a recurring slide in your team deck or ops doc. What would have been lost without us? Name the customer, name the moment, name the money. Make your invisible impact undeniable. So, you've heard CX, CS, customer support needs a seat at the table. You've probably said it yourself. I know I have, way too many times, but that's got to end today. This coveted chair is the equivalent of an invite to a birthday party You had to sell your soul to receive, and then when you arrive, no one acknowledged that you exist. We've been trying to handcraft furniture using tools that no one else had to use, hoping that this chair is going to fit underneath a table that we have never seen before. And while we were translating, smoothing, absorbing, solving, they dangled the carrot, trying to convince us that once we did all of those buzzwords their way, we would get the invite, and we better feel so grateful just to be in the room. Does that sound familiar to what was going on a really long time ago about being grateful for the opportunity? No, we do not need to be grateful. In fact, they need to be grateful that we are so good at what we do. We are essential. You are essential. You are the reason that a business still runs. We are living in a world where there are so many products doing the exact same thing. The customer experience is the differentiator. You're the ones tracking the risks before it hits the roadmap. You're the ones catching churn before finance sees the drop. You're the ones translating chaos into clarity. They want a table. We are the table. The data lives here. The risk lives here. The truth lives here. If your company ignores CX and CS, they are not being strategic. They are bleeding trust, slowly, quietly, and at scale. Remember, retention isn't a metric, it is a mirror. Companies need to pay attention to the people who already believe in what they are building, the customers that have already said, yeah, I'm going to sign up for this. The ones who stay, even when things go wrong. They need to stop chasing these hypotheticals for the next type of customer that they need to find, because they're just missing out on compounding real growth by celebrating the people that are already there. Because it only takes one bad vibe, one moment of being ignored, one feature request left to die in the void, one feature request that you are told time and time again, there's too much tech debt for us to ever consider this on our product roadmap, and yet no one can ever define how much tech debt there is and how long it would actually take to get rid of it. And when the customer's friend says, hey, I was thinking about signing up for, insert your company name here, they're going to say, don't bother. They used to care, but now they don't. So I'll say it again. We are the table. We have always been the table. Now it's time that they act like it, and it's time that we stop apologizing for being here. When I shared this talk with Tailscale's head of comms, he asked me, how does someone even start this reframe if they don't even have a seat on the floor? And I felt that. I felt that so much because I was on the floor for years. And if you're there right now, don't be mad at yourself. That's not on you. This industry was built to undervalue the people that are closest to the customer. If your insights are ignored, if your data's dismissed, your role downplayed, you're not going to build a table there. Don't quit tomorrow. Again, really, trash job market. But start doing this. Build the table in your mind first. Stop asking, why don't they give me a seat? And start saying, this company does not care about the customer, and that's not on me. You are not paid enough to convince them to care. If in 2025 they have not figured out how valuable the data that exists in the CX and CS space is, that is not on you. That wasn't in your job description. You're here to build something better with the people who already believe in what you do. So that mental shift, that doesn't start with a promotion. It starts the second that you stop shrinking. Remember, you are a translator. You speak multiple languages that nobody trained you for, and you do it every single day. You connect the dots. You carry the unspoken weight. You turn noise into momentum. It's not emotional labor. That is operational range. That is a superpower. So let's end with this. Tomorrow, make one decision that reflects what you now know. In 3 months, change one conversation, one process, or one assumption. In 1 year, be in a room where someone says, get CX in here, and realize you built that room. They called us a cost center. They still call us a cost center. And yet, you turned empathy into retention, you turned pain into insight, and you turned this role into leadership. So we are not just the table, we are the future of business. Now it's up to you to go remind them. I'm Sarah Caminiti. Thank you guys very much. Hi to my kids that are watching on an iPad in a car.
Thank you, Sarah. That was great. Very obviously very passionate,
Oh.
and this is the right audience for that.